This is the newspaper review segment of the program, and as is customary, well, I have a copy of the Daily Trust with me. Now, on front page of the Daily Trust, lead story says flood displaces 82 communities in Niger. We use canoes to evacuate our families. Situation worrisome, council chair. 19 local government areas affected this year, according to the State Emergency Management Agency, DG. And also 4 LGAs cut off in Borno, talking about the flood situation in Niger and also Borno State. We see the pictorial there, houses flooded after torrential rainfall in Mokwa, Niger State on Wednesday. Very sad pictures to behold. Below that, we see on the belt 50 million Almajire out of school children roaming Nigeria streets. And that's according to the federal government. Cholera kills 11 in Ebonyi. Tour operators suspend registration for 2025 Hajj. And also offer bank robbers to die by hanging after 6-year trial. And let's go to the top of the page now, where the federal government suspends prisons officers over Bobrisky allegations. If you've been following this allegation, of course, you know that Bobrisky had made some really weighty ones. Besides that, we see hardship. Tinubu orders low-key 64th independence celebration. And that's on page 30. Also, Jonathan counters Emir Sanusi, says Nigeria did not lose $49.8 billion under his watch. Now, these are some of the stories on the front page of the Daily Trust. We now move to The Guardian. The Guardian newspaper lead story: Tinubu's foreign missions, how Nigeria's internal crisis narrow foreign policy international repute. We see a pictorial there of the president tied down by his many troubles, some of them economy, crime, the fuel crisis, poverty, inflation, corruption, insecurity, power, among others. Of course, other stories there say experts warn of looming crisis after 4 trillion naira yearly wage bill sparks debt fears. And also, Ohaneze flays Southeast governors over Kanu's continuous detention. October 1, federal government orders low-key anniversary, cites national hardship. And also, reps push for independent candidacy ahead of 2027 poll. And also, court sentences offer bank robbery convicts to death by hanging. Jonathan debunks disappearance of $49.8 billion during his tenure. Also, stolen crude, IOC's indebtedness to federal government hits $7 billion. We see reps decry NNPC Dangote price secrecy, want marketers to lift fuel from refinery. Well, these are some of the stories on the front page of The Guardian this morning. We now go to the Punch newspaper. Lead story on the Punch says 70,000 naira minimum wage. Federal government begins payments, salaries rise to 4 trillion naira. And 1,236,824 federal workers to earn 334.9 billion naira monthly. NLC, TUC, Lord Federal Government. Atop the page, why my administration suspended Sanusi, according to Jonathan. All companies owe government over $6 billion. That's according to Nati. Also, federal government probing bandits sponsors. And other stories there says 21 children killed in Kenyan school fire buried. Kwara Hill's death sentence for 5 offer bank robbers. And also, Afenifere demands restructuring as Senate OK Southwest Development Commission. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Punch. And we now go to the Blueprint. Lead story there says my apologies there. We would rather go to the Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard says alleged missing $49.8 billion while Sanusi had to go as CBN governor. Also, flood how 5 northern states lost 141 lives in 2 months. Other stories there say Bobrisky, federal government suspend prisons officers. Also, Christian elders to federal government reverse fuel price hike to avert looming crisis. Atop the page, we see Edo poll, I'll be servant of all, ready to work with opposition, says Okpe Bolo, receives certificate of return. And also, Nigeria at 64, SDF ministers defend Tinubu's policies amid cabinet reshuffle. And these are some of the stories on the front page of the Vanguard. And now joining us in the studio this morning to provide analysis and of course some perspectives on some of these stories that have made it to the front page is the editor of 21st Century Chronicle, talking about Nurudeen Abdallah. Welcome to the studio, editor.
Thank you, Mr. Akin.
Yes, sir. You're adorning white this evening. Jumat Mubarak to you, of course.
Thank you.
But then I know the breaking story of the president's plan to reshuffle his cabinet hit you as a surprise. Did it take you as a surprise? Let's start with that.
I think not really, because we are used to the Buhari's layback approach. Buhari appointed in 8 years, he did not reshuffle his cabinet. From 29 May to another 29 May. It's only like maybe 2 or 3. Like I listened to one of your...
Of course.
I think
the Minister of Agri, the Minister of Environment, yes, exactly, and the Minister of Power. Those were the
power. The other one that abandoned the cabinet and took a traditional title in Nasarawa. I think that was the environment. But that was not the situation, even under Jonathan, Adwa, or even President Obasanjo. Because the Buhari's approach actually was, it wasn't fair to even the politicians, not to talk of the governance itself. You remember what happened? People were just put there.
And some were forgotten about in the words.
Presently, there are certain ministers, when they place you their pictures, you won't even recognize them. You are a journalist. You hardly see them on the news, let alone. And maybe another reason is this: there are so many. I think President Tinubu has one of the biggest cabinet since 1999, more than Obasanjo. We need to reshuffle. It's not a traditional institution, but even now traditional rulers are being sacked here and there for one reason or the other.
Indeed.
Like, I like the approach the president introduced, talking about that central coordinating committee, I want to feel, KPI, I want to feel. Like the other guy said, I think fairness, the appointment and sack of a federal cabinet member is at the sole discretion of the president. He hires and fires. But let's look at it. What are the major concerns of the president? Is he concerned about governance?
Or non-performance?
Non-performance or politics?
And ambition of 2027. I mean, some people have said that what happened in Edo is a pointer of what one should expect in 2027. Talking about the APC winning the election.
They are not totally wrong to have that position, particularly what happened. Yeah, we know what the outgoing governor did. He ruffled so many feathers within and outside. But if you look at the permutations towards the election, even the role of INEC, the security agencies, and the political antecedents of President Tinubu himself. Since 2007, when he left as Lagos governor, he was a political leader with any office. Outside the totem pole of power, He enthroned governors in the southeast, the southwest, mind you. He knows his ways. Let alone now that he is the president. The box stopped in his table. Before the way things are going, my reading of the situation is this, which is anyway is bad for democracy. The PDP will be in more disarray. Look at what is happening to Labour.
Crisis upon crisis. You feel
they will cripple it? No. President Tinubu is a politician, a veteran at that. He will cripple it. The PDP, a federal minister, Nelson Wike, is still a member of the PDP. Don't forget. And look at the crisis now. 4 governors so far are now drawing support for the acting PDP national chairman, Damagun, including the governor of Plateau State. The other side, the Bala Mohammed group and Atiku are saying no, Damagun should step down. We should return the office to North Central, where Dr. Ayu came from. But Governor of Plateau, who is from the North Central, he said, no, I don't want the position to come to my zone. So all these are handiwork. From the way things are going now, Wike will continue to hold PDP
by the chokehold.
By the jugular. They may go to court and what have you. And the most important thing is, who will the PDP field in 2027 is key. That's why this crisis may not likely end. So Edo may be replicated in Ondo, maybe another south state. They may leave Anambra. You remember the Supreme Court judgment? In Plateau, the same reasons used by the Court of Appeal to sack those PDP House of Assembly members were the same offense committed by the governor. But he survived.
Killed.
Maybe by one magic or we don't. So the way Tinubu will do his things, he will unsettle the opposition. And by the time we go to 2027, unless if the man is dead, he will contest apparently.
All right, Editor, let's leave politics for now. Now, there's a headline here on the Daily Trust that says 50 million Almajiri out-of-school children roaming Nigeria's streets. This is a statement according to the federal government. I want your submission on it, especially, as one would feel that a majority of these 50 million would be found on the streets of the north.
I have problem with the figures. I think it was an official, or is it the chairman of the...
So it says no fewer than 30 million Almajiri and 20 million out-of-school children are roaming about in need of attention, a government official said. Dr. Mohammed Idris, the executive secretary of the National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children's Education, disclosed this on Thursday in Abuja. It added that he spoke during an inauguration of an 8-man committee to reform the Almajiri education. So
he did not mention the
source of his data.
The source of his data, because this data is inconsistent with what UNICEF is saying. It is equally inconsistent with what the Federal Minister of Education is. As of the time Buhari was living, the then Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, said there are about 9.6 or thereabout, which is closer to what UNICEF said. I'm talking about the Almajiri, particularly in the northern part of the country. In fact, the minister was lamenting that the 8 years he served, he didn't drastically reduce that number. So I don't know where the Almajiri Commission man got his figures, but anyways, the Almajiri Commission was established, which we feel it was unnecessary. There is UBEC that covers everything. There is nomadic education. So we don't know why, and we don't even know why President Tinubu allowed this to happen. The commission was established at the last days of President Muhammad Buhari, you understand? Anyways, but what are the efforts? Establish a commission is not the problem. Nigeria is not short of laws, statutes, or regulations, but we are short of actions, political will. You remember what Jonathan did? He established schools, big schools, for the Almajiris in some key northern states. Dozens of stories were done when the man left. During the Buhari's time, no effort were made to sustain them. Some of them were abandoned. Some of the state government converted them to conventional schools. Funding to those Almajiri schools
pulled.
The subnationals are not helping matters. The problem of Almajiri is not a problem of Lagos State. It's a problem of Kano State. It's a problem of Kaduna State. Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara. Maybe to some extent Niger State. Not even Benue State. What are the state government doing?
To control, of course, we had situations where, like the Kano state government had, in very large droves, returned some of these Almajiri children back to their states of origin. But the question of whether it had any real impact, of course.
Exactly. And the concept of Almajiri is a religious, social, now economic. People in this part of the country have refused to zip up. They keep on mass producing children that they cannot cater for.
Take care of.
You understand? So the best way to is you live in a 1-bedroom apartment. You have 10 kids. So the moment they grow up, you send them to these malams along the street without knowing where they sleep, what they eat, and what have you. And our religious leaders have turned the other way around. Our traditional leaders have turned the other way around. There are dozens of research. So people need to be sensitized, maybe penalized to a certain extent. And state governments, for instance, is something that a governor can do. Henceforth, make the state assembly do a law. We won't tolerate. We are not against Quranic education. Quranic education is not synonymous to Almajiri.
All right.
I went to a Quranic school even before I entered secondary school. But I have never begged. In fact, I remember my dad every week and at the end of the month and during festivities, he provides something to that school.
So there are better and streamlined ways that this could have been.
Yes.
All right, editor. Unfortunately, the director has been in my ear. Unfortunately, the time is up, and this is where we pull the plug on the program. Thank you so much for the perspectives and analysis on some of the headlines that made it to the front page.
Thank you for having me here.
And of course, to viewers, thank you for staying with us from the start of the program up until this point. If you've missed any part of the program, do not forget you can follow us across all of our social platforms and also catch our live stream on YouTube for a recap and of course for more news, programs and documentaries. My name remains Sagir Ibrahim. Up next is 360 Sports. Do have a lovely weekend.